Hello, this is Learning with Mark Warren, and today I'm going to talk to you about my DJ template setup that I used for my performance with Ableton Live Push and the Novation Launch Control. Now, by all means, I'm no DJ. I just enjoy dabbling and playing with DJing. I like to make my own custom mixes, so when I'm out cycling and things like that, I can just listen to one continuous track and let it go. Now, 20-30 years or so, when I was younger, I did have a couple of turntables and a little bit of vinyl here, and I enjoyed playing with that. With a traditional DJ setup, you would put your vinyl on A, you would play that, you'd put another one on B, crossfade to the other side, and all the time you're looking for your next track to play. Nothing was preset. I'm sure you practice, your set list and all that, but you could on the fly grab another song, throw it on the A deck while B is playing, and then crossfade over and then grab another track and so on. So I wanted to set up something similar in Ableton Live, doing that with Ableton Push, because Push is pretty cool. You really don't need to look at your computer while using it at all. So what I wanted to do was recreate that type of setup using Ableton Push, and kind of figured out a way to do it. So I'm going to show you my template, how it works, and in a minute I'll probably do a second video here and we'll show you exactly how it works on Push and how I did the performance. So first off, let's talk about my DJ setup. And again, this is an ever-evolving, ever-changing DJ setup. I've already changed it since I've done the video, but this will give you an idea of how I've got things arranged, and then we'll like I said, again, you can make it however you want it to be. Again, it doesn't have to be like my setup. Everybody does things differently when it comes to using Push, so set it up how you want it to work. But basically what I did, I've got 4 decks set up. And I've got decks 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let me clear out all this stuff here first. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. If you think about a traditional DJ deck or a turntable setup, they're going to have 2 decks, A side and a B side. And that's pretty much what I've done here. This deck is going to the A side. This deck is going to the B side. If I have a crossfader in the middle here, you hear both of them. So Ableton Live has a crossfader setup. If you're over here in the show hide options, you can see the little X here. That will bring up the crossfader. So this is A side. This will switch over to B side. And then of course you have the middle between the two. I added 2 more decks in, like if I had a 4-deck DJ setup. So I have deck 3 also on the A side and deck 4 that goes to the B side. So that's the simple audio tracks itself. Now I don't have any effects on these, I just have some limiters. And that's on each of these, but other than that there are no effects on this. What I did is route the audio from deck 3 and deck 1 to one set of common effects. So anything for these 2 decks will go through this audio effects chain. So as you can see, I have audio going to deck 1, 3, deck 1, 3, and it goes all through this chain here. Same thing for deck 2 and 4. All of the audio gets routed to deck 2 for effects, and all of the effects go through here. So the way I have my Novation Launch Control set up, I have a few dedicated knobs set up to control the effects. So I have a launch control, just the standard launch control, not the XL. But what I did was, for instance, deck 1, it's playing some audio. We'll just throw in this one here. And I can control the effects for that just using this slot here. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. This slot here. So I have auto filter set up. I have a low cut, which just cuts out the bass frequencies. I have a short pump, which kind of gives some reverb effects, kind of drowns out to white noise, kind of like. Force pump, which is kind of like a gated effect. And then a boost. Where's the boost? Boost is right there. So that gives kind of like a little bass boost to the bass, as well as kind of gives it a little bit of dirt to it, a little bit of grunge. So it sounds a little bit more, analog-y, I guess you could say, a little analog-like. Those same effects for 2 and 4 are set up over here. Again, the auto filter. Yep, wrong side. Auto filter, low cut. I've got my long, short, force pump, and then turn on and off the boost. So I have one more button set up here on this, but that's for the beat repeat on the dummy effects, which I'll talk about that in a bit here. But A side effects, B side effects, I liked having in the launch control because everything's all dedicated here in one place. With push, you do have the 8 knobs at the top, but it's a little hard to bounce back and forth between the different effects while you're loading tracks and things like that. So I kind of like this, but now, you know, since I've done a few revisions of this, I've gotten a little more comfortable doing it all from push, and I'm relying a little bit less on the launch control. But I still have the launch control in my setup just so I can have some dedicated buttons and knobs for certain things. So back to the decks. I have the master output. Well, we'll go back through the actual chain here. So this is playing, it goes to deck effects 1, 3. That plays and goes over to my dummy effects, and then finally that goes to the master. So the master is what the crowd's going to hear. They're going to hear what's coming out of 1 and 2. I also have a cue out setup. So think about DJ headphones. Sometimes they're pre-listening to tracks in their headphones while, you know, the crowd's only hearing something else. So I have a 2 in 4 out sound card. So I'm using the Focusrite 2i4, the Mark II, version 2, Gen 2, whichever one you want to call it. And so my master out is going out of channels 1 and 2. The cue out is going out of headphone jack 3, 4. So I can actually, let's say I've got this one playing here, deck 1. Boom, put that over there to the A side, and I drag in another track over here, deck 2. I can actually turn on and off the cue using my buttons down here. So this mirrors actually the deck setup. 3, 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4, 3. So while this one's playing, I hit this button here. Oh, let me reset up my template here. There we go. So while this one's playing on deck 1, I can hit the button over here for deck 2, and as you can see, the headphone jack actually turns on. And as you can see, the only reason I have these tracks over here, this is mapped to deck 2, the headphone jack, but to get the lights to turn on and off, I had it set up on a mix channel as well, so it actually turns off that mix channel and turns off the light. So that just tells me that the headphone cue is on, but that's the only reason that is there. Just to give me the light visualization. So think of them like dummy audio tracks, I guess you could say. But when that turns off, then of course the light turns back on. So I usually have this closed down so I don't even see it at all. And then I have audio routed from the master going to my headphone cue. So I hear the main mix plus whatever's coming on for turned on and off cues. So as you can see, I've got cues lighting up, turning on and off, and so on. So that is how I have the headphones and the DJ, you know, outputs set up. After we've got audio going from, let's see, audio to the effects, they go into dummy effects. And if you're not familiar with dummy clips and dummy effects, basically that just allows you to do automated effects just by hitting one button. So you can control or make envelopes, or, you know, make your own effects. Like say you want a reverb to turn on for 2 bars. You can have that just by hitting one button. It turns on for 2 bars and then turns back off. So that's what the dummy effects does. This dry basically turns off all the effects. I have a beat repeat set up here. And basically what this will do is turn on the beat repeat for a total of up to 8 bars. And I have that button assigned here, which controls the actual grid of the beat repeat. Am I on the right template? Yes. This would control the grid of the beat repeat once I turn it on. And actually, when it's all the way there, it actually turns it or switches it off. But I hit this button, turns it on. I control the grid of it while the beat repeat is going. And as you can see, dry is flashing, meaning after 8 bars, the dry is going to kick on and turn that effect off. I can hit the dry at any point to turn the effect off immediately, but it's pretty cool setting up dummy clips and follow clips, and I'll talk about those a little bit later and show you in a little more detail once we get over to Push and set everything going here. But you know, so after the audio passes from the deck effects through the dummy effects, then it goes out to the master, and that's what everybody else hears. The dummy effects, again, these are just things like, it's tough to queue up songs and do all this other stuff while you're trying to worry about mixing in your effects. So you can hit one button, it does all this stuff automatically for you, and you can focus on doing other things like loading songs or whatever. So that's why I have a few of these set up, and I plan on using this a little bit more. These were just some basic ones I figured out how to program first, and then go from there. So I'm going to close all this down. I don't want to see those usually when I'm performing. And again, my template has changed since I originally did the video, but that's the basic layout of it. And then finally, I've got an audio track over here where I record everything coming out of the master to an audio track itself, so I hear what's going on. So that's pretty much the setup of the DJ template itself. In the next video, I'll show you how all of it works together on Push. So you can load, again, your songs on the fly, do everything on the fly, do it just like a regular DJ set. Now, one other thing, if you look at my song, this is just a simple set list that I have created here just for doing the video, but I have all these songs, and you'll notice that, for instance, the name on them has a number, letter, and then the tempo. So if I drag these over here, you see this is a 1A, this is a 1B, I've got a 2A, is there a 2B? I do have a 2B. So what this is, I have a program called Mixed in Key. If you're not familiar with Mixed in Key, it's pretty cool. What it'll do is automatically analyze the key of a song and assign a number to it. So let's say key of C was 1A, then you might have the key of G going around music harmonically for the circle of fifths. That would be a 2A. If it was a minor, then it might be a 2B, things like that. So these songs will blend together. Ones can go into 1Bs from a major to a minor, and then you can take the minors to the minors, and then the minors back to the majors. But if you go from like 1A to a 2A, they will blend together almost effortlessly. So it makes it easy for mixing songs when you know the keys of the song, so you can go to the next song easy. And you can just work through a set list. So I might start at 1A, go to the 2A, maybe go to a 2B, go to a 3B, back to a 3A, to a 4A, to a 4B, to a 5B. I don't have a 5B, but a 5A, and so on. So you can jump around just by knowing. And you can even skip a few. There's a few rules that you can do where you can skip. Like I can go from a 1A to a 3A, or a 4B to a 6B, something like that. But it makes it really easy for mixing when the sounds blend almost seamlessly together. So if you're not familiar with Mixing in Key, that is pretty good software. I recommend checking that out. And I'll have a link for that down below in the description of this video. But let's stop here. I'm going to jump over on Push and set up the camera for that, and then show you how all of this works together.